The call came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was 3 glasses of wine deep into reviewing acquisition reports when my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen in years. Tessa, it's Mrs. Rodriguez from Maple Street. I hope I'm not calling too late. My name is Tessa, and Mrs. Rodriguez used to slip me homemade cookies when I'd show up at her door with fresh bruises and nowhere else to go. She was the only neighbor who ever asked questions. Mrs. Rodriguez, hi. Is everything okay? Well, honey, I thought you should know. Your old house, the one on Elm, it sold last week. I saw the moving trucks today. My wine glass stopped halfway to my lips. Sold? My parents didn't mention. Oh, sweetie, your parents moved out months ago. Didn't you know? They're in that new development across town now. But the buyer... She paused. I recognized him. That boy you used to date, Deacon. The glass slipped from my hand, shattering against my marble floor. Red wine spread like blood across the white stone. Tessa, you there? Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for calling, Mrs. Rodriguez. I hung up and stared at the mess at my feet. 9 years since I'd fled that house at 19 with nothing but a backpack and a bus ticket. 9 years of rebuilding myself from nothing, of becoming someone my teenage self could never have imagined. And now, he was living in my childhood bedroom. I grabbed my laptop, ignoring the wine soaking into my silk pajamas. The county records website loaded slowly, each second stretching like torture. I typed in the address, 1247 Elm Street. There it was, sale date, 3 weeks ago. Purchase price, $340,000. Buyer, Deacon Hart. I scrolled down to the seller information, though I already knew what I'd find. Mark Watts, my father. My phone rang again. This time it was Phoebe. Hey, you better not be working. It's almost midnight. Phoebe. My voice came out strangled. He bought it. Who bought what? Deacon. He bought my house, my childhood house. Silence. Then, what the hell are you talking about? I told her everything Mrs. Rodriguez had said, about my parents moving without telling me, about Deacon signing papers to own the place where he'd once cornered me in the kitchen, where he'd shoved me so hard I'd cracked a rib, where my father had watched it happen and told me I was too emotional when I tried to explain. That sick bastard, Phoebe whispered, and your dad just sold it to him? Apparently so. I pulled up more records. My father had bought the house in 1987 for $89,000. He'd just made a $250,000 profit selling my trauma to the man who'd caused it. Tessa, are you okay? You're being really quiet. I wasn't okay. I was remembering the last night I'd spent in that house. The bruise on my throat that I'd covered with concealer for weeks. The way Deacon had smiled at my father over dinner while my ribs ached from where he'd grabbed me earlier. The way my father had clapped him on the back and called him son. I need to see the deed, I said. Tessa, I need to see exactly what he bought. I hung up and dove deeper into the public records. Property tax information, previous sales, mortgage details. Deacon had put down 20% and financed the rest through a local bank. His credit score was listed as 680, not great, but passable. I opened another tab and searched for his business. Hart Construction was still operating, but barely. 3 employees down from the 12 he'd had when we dated. Recent reviews were mixed at best. One customer complained about shoddy work and cost overruns. Another tab, social media. His Instagram showed photos of the house, my house, with captions about new beginnings and coming home. In one photo, he was standing in the doorway of what used to be my bedroom, grinning like he'd won the lottery. The comments were full of congratulations from mutual acquaintances, people who'd known us both, people who'd seen the bruises but never asked questions. My father had even liked the post. I screenshotted everything, The deed, the mortgage information, the social media posts. Then I opened a new document and started typing. Property research, 1247 Elm Street. Current owner, Deacon Hart. Purchase date, October 15th. Mortgage holder, First National Bank. Interest rate, 6.8%. Monthly payment, approximately $2,100. I saved the file and closed my laptop. The wine stain had spread across half my living room floor, dark and permanent. I walked to my floor-to-ceiling windows and looked out at the city lights below. My penthouse apartment was worth more than my childhood home ever would be. I'd built an empire from nothing, created wealth my 19-year-old self couldn't have dreamed of. But none of that mattered right now. I stared at my reflection in the glass. Successful, powerful, untouchable. Then I smiled. I stared at his name on the deed, burned into my memory now. But he wasn't the only one buying houses lately. The next morning, I called in sick to my regular job and spent 6 hours at my kitchen table with spreadsheets, coffee, and a growing pile of documents. By noon, I had a complete financial profile on Deacon Hart. His construction business was hemorrhaging money. 3 major contracts had fallen through in the past year. He owed $47,000 in back taxes. The house purchase had cleaned out his savings account. But there was something else. Something that made me smile for the first time since Mrs. Rodriguez's call. His family's vacation house on Lake Morrison was about to go into foreclosure. I dialed Jarrett's number. Ref Design Group, this is Jarrett. It's Tessa. I need you to move on that lake property we discussed. The Morrison place? I thought you said we were waiting until... Change of plans. I want it. Today. Jarrett paused. Tessa, that's a cash deal. $400,000. Are you sure? Positive. Use the Riverside LLC. And Jarrett? I need this done quietly. When have I ever been loud? After I hung up, I poured another cup of coffee and let myself remember. Not the bad parts, not yet, the beginning. I was 17 when I met Deacon at a house party. He was 24, confident, and he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. When he offered to drive me home, I said yes. Your dad seems cool, he'd said after meeting my father for the first time. My father had been impressed. Deacon owned his own business, drove a nice truck, and called him Sir. Everything I wasn't, according to my father, everything I'd never be. He likes you more than he likes me, I joked. Deacon had laughed. That's because I'm not his daughter. Fathers are different with daughters. He was right about that. The first time Deacon hit me, I was 18. We'd been dating for 8 months. I'd questioned why he'd been texting his ex-girlfriend, and he'd backhanded me so fast I didn't see it coming. Don't ever accuse me of cheating again, he'd said, like I was the one who'd done something wrong. I'd gone home with a split lip and told my parents I'd fallen off my bike. You need to be more careful, my father had said, not looking up from his newspaper. My mother had handed me an ice pack and said nothing. The second time, Deacon had shoved me into a wall during an argument about college. I'd wanted to apply to schools out of state. He'd wanted me to stay local. You're not going anywhere, he'd said, his hand around my throat. You belong here, with me. I'd shown up at home with fingerprint bruises on my neck. What happened to you? My mother had asked. Deacon and I had a fight. She'd gone pale. Tessa, did he... It was my fault, I'd said quickly. I pushed him too far. My father had walked into the kitchen then, seen the bruises, and shaken his head. You girls and your drama, he'd said. Maybe if you weren't so emotional all the time, you wouldn't have these problems. That night, I'd heard my parents arguing in their bedroom. Mark, look at her neck, my mother had whispered. Boys will be boys, Edith. She probably provoked him. You know how she gets. She's our daughter, and he's going to be our son-in-law. Deacon's a good man. He works hard, he respects me, and he'll take care of her. That's more than most girls get these days. I'd pressed my ear to their door, listening to my father defend the man who'd put his hands on me. She needs to learn to control her temper, he'd continued. Deacon's just trying to help her grow up. My phone buzzed, snapping me back to the present. Jarrett, Lake House is ours. Seller accepted our cash offer. Closing in 2 days. I texted back, perfect. Start demo immediately after closing. Then I called Phoebe. Please tell me you slept, she said instead of hello. I bought Deacon's family lake house. You what? It was going into foreclosure. I bought it out from under him. Tessa, what are you doing? What I should have done years ago. I told her about the financial records, about Deacon's failing business, about my father selling him the house where he'd hurt me. So you're going to bankrupt him? I'm going to take back everything he took from me. Phoebe was quiet for a long moment. And then what? Then I'm going to make sure he never hurts anyone else the way he hurt me. Tessa, my father chose him over me, Phoebe. He watched that man put his hands on me and called it discipline. He sold him my childhood home like it was just another transaction. I know, but nothing. I worked 3 jobs for 2 years after I left. 3 jobs and no sleep, living in a studio apartment with roaches, eating ramen every night. I built myself from nothing while they played happy family with my abuser. I remember. Do you remember the night I called you crying because I'd made my first real estate flip? 23 years old, and I'd just made more money in 6 months than my father made in a year. You were so proud. I was. And you know what I did? I called him to tell him. And he hung up on me because I'd interrupted his dinner with Deacon. I walked to my window and looked down at the city below. If karma wasn't going to show up, I said, I decided to become her. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my car outside the county courthouse when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Is this the representative for Riverside LLC? Speaking. This is Tom Bradley from Bradley Construction. I understand you outbid us on the Morrison property? I smiled. That's correct. Look, I'll be straight with you. My partner really wanted that place. Family connection, you know. We're prepared to offer you a $50,000 profit if you'll transfer the deed. Who's your partner? Deacon Hart. Maybe you know him? Hart Construction. I'm not interested in selling. $75,000 profit. Cash. Still not interested. The line went quiet. Then, ma'am, with all due respect, what are you planning to do with a lake house that needs $100,000 in renovations? Demo it. I hung up and immediately called Jarrett. The lake house demo starts tomorrow, right? Bright and early. Why? Make sure you get photos. Every angle. Before, during, and after. Tessa, what's going on? Just document everything. That afternoon, I drove out to Lake Morrison. The house sat on 2 acres of prime waterfront property, the kind of place that sold for millions in other markets. Here, it was just another foreclosure. I walked through the empty rooms, remembering the one time Deacon had brought me here. I was 18 and he'd wanted to get away from everything for the weekend. What he'd really wanted was somewhere isolated where no one could hear me scream. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Deacon. We need to talk. I deleted it without responding. The next morning, I watched from my office as the demolition crew tore down the lake house. Jarrett sent me photos every hour. By noon, it was nothing but a pile of rubble. I printed the photos and put them in an envelope with no return address. Then I looked up the business addresses for Hart Construction's 3 biggest clients and mailed one to each. My phone rang at 2 p.m. Tessa Marie Watts, what the hell do you think you're doing? My father's voice hadn't changed. Still that same tone that made me feel like I was 12 years old and in trouble for something I didn't understand. Hello, Dad? Don't hello, Dad me. Deacon called. He's upset. I'm sure he is. He said you bought his family's lake house just to tear it down. Is that true? It was going into foreclosure. I made a business decision. Bullshit. This is about your mother's birthday, isn't it? You're acting out because we didn't invite you. I laughed. Actually laughed. You think I demolished a house because I missed Mom's birthday? I think you're still the same dramatic little girl you always were. Causing problems, making everything about you. Tell me something, Dad. How much did Deacon pay you for the house? That's none of your business. 340,000. I looked it up. Not bad for a house you bought for 89,000. So? So you made $250,000 selling my childhood home to the man who used to beat me in it. Silence. Dad? You're exaggerating. Deacon never beat you. He put his hands on me, multiple times. You saw the bruises. That was different. You were young, emotional. You pushed him. I was 18 years old and he was choking me in our kitchen while you watched TV in the next room. That's not how I remember it. Of course it isn't. I heard him take a deep breath. Deacon's been good to this family, Tessa. He helped me with the roof last summer. He checks on your mother when I'm out of town. He's like a son to me. More than I ever was. You left. You chose to leave. I chose to survive. You chose to be dramatic and run away instead of working things out like an adult. I hung up. Within an hour, my phone was buzzing with texts from Deacon. Your dad told me what you did. This is childish, even for you. You want to play games? Let's play. I know where you work. I screenshotted each message and saved them to a folder labeled Evidence. Then I called my private investigator. Marcus, it's Tessa. I need you to dig deeper on Deacon Hart. Financial records, business dealings, personal relationships, everything. How deep are we talking? Deep enough to find out why a man with a failing construction business could afford to buy a $300,000 house. That might take some time. I've got time. 3 days later, Marcus called back. You're going to want to sit down for this. I'm sitting. Your boy Deacon didn't buy that house with his own money. The down payment came from a high-interest private loan, $68,000 at 18% interest. Who's the lender? That's where it gets interesting. The loan came through a shell company, but I traced it back. The money originally came from his ex-girlfriend's settlement from a car accident. She gave him access to her account 6 months ago. Ex-girlfriend? Sarah Mitchell, 26 years old. She was in a serious accident last year, got a $200,000 settlement. According to her social media, she's been dating Deacon for about 8 months. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Marcus, I need you to find out everything you can about Sarah Mitchell. Already on it. But Tessa, from what I can see so far, this girl has no idea what she's gotten herself into. I stared out my office window at the city below. Somewhere out there, another young woman was handing over her money to the man who'd once convinced me that love was supposed to hurt. The man who sold me lies now sold my past. I was getting it all back, piece by shattered piece. Marcus sent me Sarah's file the next morning. 26 years old, worked as a dental hygienist, lived in a small apartment across town. Her Instagram showed the same progression I remembered from my own relationship with Deacon. Early photos full of flowers and romantic dinners, recent ones where her smile looked forced and she wore long sleeves even in summer heat. I called my real estate agent. Rebecca, I need to make an offer on a property. Cash deal, close within the week. Which property? 1247 Elm Street. Tessa, that house just sold 3 weeks ago. I know, I want you to reach out to the owner. Tell him you have a client interested in a quick flip. Offer him 400,000. That's 60,000 over what he paid. I know what I'm doing. 2 hours later, Rebecca called back. He said no, but he seemed interested, like he was thinking about it. Call him back tomorrow. Offer 450. Tessa, just do it. That afternoon, I drove to Elm Street. I parked 3 houses down and stared at the place where I'd spent the first 18 years of my life. Deacon had already started making changes. New shutters, a fresh coat of paint on the front door, the same door I'd run through at 19 with a backpack and bruised ribs. My phone rang. Tessa? It's Sarah. I nearly dropped the phone. Sarah? Sarah Mitchell. I got your number from, well, it doesn't matter how. Can we meet? Where? Anywhere but my place. He's there. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Sarah looked exactly like her photos, blonde, petite, with the kind of nervous energy that came from constantly looking over your shoulder. She had a bruise on her wrist that she kept trying to hide with her sleeve. You're Deacon's ex, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. I am. He talks about you, a lot. I'm sure he does. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. He says you're crazy, that you stalked him, made up stories about him hurting you. And what do you think? She was quiet for a long moment. I think you bought his family's lake house just to tear it down. I did. Why? I looked at her bruised wrist. How long has he been hitting you, Sarah? Her face went white. He doesn't... The bruise on your wrist. The way you keep checking your phone. The fact that you're meeting me in secret. She started crying. Right there in the middle of the coffee shop, she broke down completely. It started 6 months ago, she whispered. After I gave him access to my settlement money, he said it was for our future, for the house he wanted to buy. My house. Your house? I grew up there. My father sold it to him. She stared at me. He never mentioned that. I'm sure he didn't. What else did he tell you about the money? That it was an investment. That he'd pay me back with interest once his business picked up. Sarah, his business is failing. He owes 47,000 in back taxes. That's impossible. He just bought a house. With your money. She was quiet for a long time. What am I supposed to do? I gave him everything. The settlement was supposed to be my fresh start after the accident. You can still have a fresh start. How? I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots of Deacon's threatening texts. Document everything, every bruise, every threat, every time he takes your money without asking. He'll kill me if he finds out I talked to you. Then don't let him find out. I gave her my number and made her promise to call if things got worse. Then I drove back to Elm Street. This time I got out of my car. The key was still hidden under the fake rock by the back door. Some things never change. I let myself in and stood in the kitchen where Deacon had cornered me so many times. The walls were the same pale yellow my mother had painted them when I was 12. The scratches on the hardwood floor from when he'd thrown a chair were still there. I walked upstairs to my old bedroom. Deacon had turned it into an office. There was a desk where my bed used to be, filing cabinets where my dresser had been, but the closet was the same. I opened the door and knelt in the back corner. The loose floorboard was exactly where I'd left it. I pried it up with my car keys and reached into the space underneath. The envelope was still there, water-stained and yellowed with age, but intact. Inside were 3 Polaroid photos I'd taken with a camera I'd stolen from the drugstore where I worked. Photos of bruises Deacon had left on my ribs, my back, my throat. Photos I'd hidden because I knew someday I might need proof. On the back of each photo, I'd written the date and what had happened. My teenage handwriting looked shaky and scared. October 15th, 2014, he pushed me down the stairs because I talked to Jake Morrison at school. December 3rd, 2014, he hit me with his belt because I was 5 minutes late getting home from work. January 22nd, 2015, he choked me because I said I wanted to go to college. I sat on the floor of my old closet, holding the photos, and for the first time in 9 years, I let myself cry for the girl who'd hidden them there. My phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. He called back. Wants to meet tomorrow to discuss the offer. I wiped my eyes and stood up. The photos went into my purse. Inside the closet wall, I'd found something I'd hidden years ago, the only physical proof of a particular moment that split me forever. And now I had it. The meeting with Deacon was set for 2 p.m. at Rebecca's office. I arrived early and watched through the window as his truck pulled into the parking lot. He looked older, harder around the edges. Success hadn't been kind to him. Rebecca handled the introduction smoothly. Mr. Hart, this is my client, Tessa. Deacon's face went through a series of emotions, surprise, anger, then something that looked almost like fear. You've got to be kidding me. Is there a problem? Rebecca asked, looking between us. We have history, I said calmly. Deacon stood up. I'm not selling to her. The offer is $450,000, Rebecca continued. Cash, 7-day close. He sat back down. Why? Why what? I asked. Why do you want the house? Sentimental value. Bullshit. Rebecca cleared her throat. Perhaps we should focus on the business at hand. No, Deacon said, his eyes locked on mine. I want to know what game she's playing. No game. I want to buy the house. You need the money. How do you know what I need? I pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. Hart Construction. 3 employees, down from 12, $47,000 in back taxes. High interest loan on the house purchase. Should I continue? His jaw tightened. You've been investigating me. I've been doing my homework. This is harassment. This is business. Rebecca looked uncomfortable. Perhaps we should take a break. $500,000, I said. Deacon blinked. What? $500,000, cash, close in 5 days. He was quiet for a long moment. I need to think about it. You have 24 hours. After he left, Rebecca turned to me. Tessa, what the hell was that about? Like I said, history. That evening, my phone rang. Mom. Tessa, honey, we need to talk. Hi, Mom. I know it's you who made the offer on the house. How? Deacon called your father. He's very upset. I'm sure he is. Can you come over? Please? We need to discuss this as a family. I almost laughed. As a family? Your father wants to explain. There's nothing to explain, Mom. There's a lot to explain. More than you know. Something in her voice made me pause. What do you mean? Just come over, please. An hour later, I was sitting in my parents' new living room. The house was smaller than the old one, more modern. My mother looked older, grayer. My father looked angry. This has gone far enough, he said before I'd even sat down. Hello to you too, Dad. Don't be smart with me. What you're doing to Deacon is wrong. What I'm doing to Deacon? Buying his properties, tearing them down, harassing him. I made a legitimate business offer on a house. That's not harassment. My mother spoke up. Tessa, there are things you don't understand about that time in your life. What things? She looked at my father, who shook his head. Tell me, I said. Your father thought he was helping you. Helping me how? By letting Deacon discipline you. He thought you needed structure, boundaries. He thought I needed to be hit. Not hit, my father said. Corrected. You were wild, emotional, out of control. I was 18 years old. You were disrespectful. Deacon was trying to help you grow up. I stared at him. You gave him permission to put his hands on me. I gave him permission to be the man in your life when you clearly needed one. I needed a father. You needed discipline. My mother started crying. Stop it, both of you. I turned to her. You knew. You knew what he was doing, and you let it happen. I tried to talk to your father. You tried. You tried. You don't understand how it was back then. Your father was so angry all the time, and Deacon seemed to calm him down. When Deacon was around, your father was happier. So you sacrificed me to keep Dad happy? I thought it would get better. I thought once you matured, I was being abused in your house and you thought I needed to mature? My father slammed his hand on the coffee table. Enough! You were not abused. You were a difficult teenager who needed guidance. I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I'd found in the closet. This is guidance? He looked at the pictures of my bruised ribs, my swollen face, my throat marked with fingerprints. His face went white. Where did you get these? I took them. I hid them in my closet because even at 18, I knew someday I'd need proof. My mother gasped. Oh my God, Tessa. You saw these bruises, Mom. Both of you did. And you told me I was being dramatic. I didn't know they were that bad, she whispered. You didn't want to know. My father was staring at the photos. He said you fell. He said you were clumsy, accident-prone. And you believed him because it was easier than admitting you'd invited a predator into your house. I thought I was protecting you. From what? From making the same mistakes I did, from ending up with some loser who couldn't provide for you. So you gave me to a man who beat me instead. He was quiet for a long time. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Every single day for 2 years, you made the choice to let him hurt me. My mother reached for my hand. Tessa, please, we want to make this right. I pulled away. You can't make this right. You can't undo 18 years of choosing him over me. What do you want from us? My father asked. I wanted a mother who would protect me. I wanted a father who would love me more than he loved his own ego. I needed parents who would choose their daughter over their reputation. We're choosing you now, my mother said. No, you're trying to protect Deacon now, just like you did then. I stood up to leave. Tessa, wait, my mother called. There's something else. Something I never told you. I stopped at the door. What? The security cameras. Your father installed them when you were 17. They recorded everything. My blood went cold. Everything? The fights, the incidents, everything. Where are the recordings? My father wouldn't meet my eyes. I deleted them. When? After you left, I thought it was better. You destroyed evidence of my abuse. I was protecting the family. I looked at both of them, my mother crying, my father staring at the floor. I needed a mother, I said quietly, not a silent bystander. I walked out and didn't look back. In my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Deacon. I'll take the 500. But this doesn't end here. I texted back, you're right, it doesn't. The closing took 3 days. I paid cash, no inspection, no contingencies. By Friday afternoon, I owned the house where I'd grown up, where I'd been hurt, where my parents had chosen my abuser over their own daughter. I was standing in the empty living room when I heard a car door slam outside. Through the window, I saw my father walking up the front path. He looked older than he had 3 days ago, like the weight of those photos had aged him years in hours. I opened the door before he could knock. You came. I got the deed in the mail, he said, holding up the envelope. Figured you'd be here. Come in. He stepped inside and looked around. Looked smaller than I remembered. Everything does when you grow up. We stood in the living room where he used to watch TV while Deacon hurt me in the kitchen. The silence stretched between us. I brought you something, he said finally, pulling out a manila folder. Found it in the basement of the old house. Thought you might want it. Inside were school photos, report cards, a drawing I'd made in second grade of our family. In the drawing, I was holding both my parents' hands and smiling. You were a good kid, he said quietly. I was your kid. I know. Do you? Because for 2 years you treated me like I was the problem. Like I was some burden you needed Deacon to fix. He sat down heavily on the floor, his back against the wall. I was 23 when you were born, younger than you are now. That's not an excuse. No, it's not. But I was scared, Tessa. Scared I'd mess you up the way my father messed me up. So you let someone else mess me up instead? I thought I was teaching you to be strong. To not take crap from anyone. By letting someone give me crap. By letting you learn to handle difficult men. I stared at him. You thought abuse was a learning experience? I thought it was discipline. I thought... He stopped, shook his head. I don't know what I thought. I was young and stupid, and I believed what I wanted to believe. Which was what? That Deacon was a good man who could teach you things I couldn't. That he'd make you tougher, more resilient. He made me afraid to come home. I know that now. You knew it then too. You just didn't care. He was quiet for a long time. You're right. About what? I chose him over you, every time. I sat down across from him on the hardwood floor. Why? Because he made me feel like a good father. He called me sir, asked my advice, treated me with respect. You challenged me, questioned me, made me feel like I didn't know what I was doing. I was a teenager, that's what teenagers do. I know that now, but not then. Not then. I pulled out the photos from my purse and spread them on the floor between us. Look at them again. He picked up the one from December 3rd, the belt marks across my back. He told me you'd gotten into a fight at school. Said some boy had pushed you and you'd fallen. And you believed him. I wanted to believe him. Even when the bruises didn't match the story. Even then, I picked up another photo. This one? He looked at the fingerprints around my throat. He said you'd tried to run away, and he'd had to restrain you. I was trying to leave for work. I know. He choked me because I wouldn't quit my job. I know. And you told me I was being dramatic when I tried to tell you. I told you that because admitting the truth would have meant admitting I'd failed you, and I couldn't handle that. We sat in silence, looking at the evidence of my pain spread out between us. I'm sorry, he said finally. For what, specifically? For choosing my ego over your safety, for letting him hurt you, for making you feel like you didn't matter. And for destroying the security footage, for protecting him instead of you, for being a coward. I gathered up the photos. Apology noted. That's it? What did you expect? I don't know. Forgiveness? From who? The 18-year-old girl who needed her father to protect her? She's gone. You made sure of that. He started crying then. Actually crying right there on the floor of my childhood home. I don't know how to fix this. You can't fix it. Then what do I do? You live with it. My phone buzzed. Text from Sophia, my cousin. Heard you bought the house back. Can we talk? I showed my father the message. Did you tell the family? Your mother did. She's been calling everyone trying to explain. Explain what? Why you're doing this. Why you hate us. I don't hate you. You don't? I hate what you did. I hate who you chose to be, but I don't hate you. What's the difference? The difference is that I'm still here, talking to you, instead of having you arrested for destroying evidence of a crime. He looked up sharply. You could do that? I could do a lot of things. But you won't? I haven't decided yet. Another text from Sophia. Mom told me about the photos. I have something you need to see. I stood up. You need to leave now. Tessa, we're done here. Are we? Are we really done? I looked down at him, still sitting on the floor, still crying. You said he was a real man while you were less than a father. Now you get to live with the consequences. I walked him to the door. Before he left, he turned back. For what it's worth, I'm proud of who you became, despite everything I did wrong. Your pride doesn't undo your damage. I know. After he left, I called Sophia. I'm coming over, she said before I could speak. And I'm bringing something that's going to change everything. Sophia arrived an hour later carrying a laptop bag and looking like she hadn't slept in days. I've been debating whether to show you this for 3 years, she said, setting up her laptop on the kitchen counter. Show me what? Remember when I worked for that data recovery company? Before I went back to school? Vaguely. Your mom brought me a hard drive in 2018. Said your dad had accidentally deleted some family videos and wanted them recovered. My stomach dropped. Sophia. I recovered everything, including files your dad thought he'd permanently deleted. She turned the laptop screen toward me. I made copies before I gave it back to them. The screen showed a folder labeled Security Footage 2014-2015. Inside were dozens of video files organized by date. You've had this for 3 years? I didn't know what was on it until after your mom called yesterday, crying about photos you'd shown them. So I looked. Her hands were shaking. Tessa, I'm so sorry. If I'd known... Show me. She clicked on a file dated December 3rd, 2014. The timestamp showed 6:47 p.m. The camera angle was from the living room, looking into the kitchen. On screen, 18-year-old me walked through the front door in my work uniform. Deacon was waiting in the kitchen. You're late, his voice came through the laptop speakers. I had to stay late to help close. I texted you. I don't care what you texted. I told you to be home by 6:30. It's only 15 minutes. The slap echoed through the speakers. On screen, I stumbled backward, my hand flying to my cheek. Don't talk back to me. I wasn't... He grabbed me by the hair and dragged me out of the camera's view. But the audio continued, the sound of his belt coming off, my pleading. The crack of leather against skin, my screams. And then, clear as day, my father's voice from the living room. Keep it down in there, I'm trying to watch the news. Sophia paused the video. There are 47 files like this. I stared at the frozen image of my teenage self, hand pressed to her reddening cheek. He watched. He actually sat there and watched. Not just watched. There's one where he tells Deacon to take it upstairs because the neighbors might hear. Play it. Tessa, play it. She clicked on another file. January 22nd, 2015. This time the camera caught everything. Deacon had me pinned against the refrigerator, his hand around my throat, screaming about college applications he'd found in my backpack. You're not going anywhere, he said, squeezing tighter. You belong here. I was clawing at his hand, gasping for air, when my father walked into the kitchen. What's going on? Your daughter thinks she's going to college. Is that right? My father looked at me, still being choked, like I was a mild inconvenience. Tessa, we've talked about this. Dad, I wheezed, help. Deacon, take her upstairs. Mrs. Rodriguez is probably listening. Deacon released my throat and dragged me toward the stairs. The camera caught my father returning to his chair, turning up the TV volume. Sophia closed the laptop. I can't watch anymore. I was shaking, actually shaking, sitting in the same kitchen where it had happened. There's more? Dozens more. And Tessa, your mom was in some of them. She saw what was happening and walked away. My phone rang. Sarah. Tessa, I need help. He found out I talked to you. Where are you? Hiding in my car outside the grocery store. He's been calling and texting for hours. I'm scared to go home. Don't go home. Meet me at my house, 1247 Elm Street. That's his house now. No, it's mine. An hour later, Sarah was sitting on my living room floor, her left eye swollen shut, her lips split. He went through my phone, she said, found your number, started screaming about how you were trying to turn me against him. What did you tell him? Nothing, but he didn't believe me. I handed her an ice pack. Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Okay. Has he ever made you do things with his friends? Other men? Her face went white. How did you... Because he did it to me, too. She started crying. I thought I was the only one. I thought it was normal that all girlfriends had to... It's not normal. None of it is normal. My doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see Deacon's truck in the driveway. He followed me, Sarah whispered. Go upstairs. Lock yourself in the bathroom. What are you going to do? What I should have done 10 years ago. I opened the door. Deacon stood on the porch, drunk and furious. Where is she? Who? Don't play games with me, Tessa. I know she's here. You're not welcome in my house. Your house? He laughed. This is my house. I bought it. I live here. Check the deed. He pushed past me into the living room. Sarah. Get down here. She's not coming down. The hell she isn't. He started toward the stairs. I stepped in front of him. You need to leave. I need to collect what's mine. She's not yours. She's my girlfriend. She lives with me. She owes me money. She owes you nothing. He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging into the same spot he used to bruise. You always were a self-righteous little bitch. And you always were a coward who only felt powerful when you were hurting women. His grip tightened. You want to see powerful? Actually, yes, I do. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Go ahead, Deacon. Show me how powerful you are. Hit me. Right here in the house where you used to beat me while my father watched. You're insane. I'm documented. Every threat, every bruise, every time you've put your hands on Sarah or me. It's all recorded now. You can't prove anything. Actually, I can. I opened Sophia's laptop and hit play on one of the videos. Deacon's face went white as he watched himself choking 18-year-old me while my father told him to take it upstairs. 47 videos, Deacon. 47 pieces of evidence that you're exactly what I said you were. He released my arm and stepped back. What do you want? I want you to leave Sarah alone. I want you to stay away from this house. And I want you to understand something. What? You said he was a real man while you destroyed a teenage girl. Now here's what a real woman looks like. I walked to the front door and held it open. Get out of my house. Deacon left without another word. I watched his truck disappear down Elm Street, then called the police to file a restraining order. Sarah came downstairs when she heard the front door close. Is he gone? He's gone. What happens now? I looked around the empty house, the place where I'd been hurt, where my parents had failed me, where Deacon had tried to break me. Now we rebuild. The next morning, I called Jarrett. I need contractors, the best ones you know. What kind of work? Complete renovation. I want this place gutted and redesigned as a residential facility. What kind of facility? A safe house. for women leaving abusive relationships. Within a week, construction crews were tearing out walls, installing new plumbing, creating separate living spaces. I worked alongside them, swinging a sledgehammer at the wall where Deacon used to corner me. Phoebe showed up on day 3 with coffee and donuts. "You're really doing this." "I'm really doing this." "What are you going to call it?" I looked at the blueprint spread across my old kitchen counter. Real. Reclaim, empower, ascend, live. I love it. Sarah moved in while the construction was still happening, sleeping in the one finished bedroom upstairs. She'd quit her job at the dental office, too many people knew Deacon there, and started helping coordinate the renovation. "I want to help other women like us," she said one evening as we painted the main living area. "I want them to know they're not alone." They're not. I know that now. My phone rang. "Sophia." "The videos are ready." "Ready for what?" "I edited them down to the worst incidents. 17 minutes total. Your lawyer says it's enough to press charges if you want to." "I don't want to press charges." "What do you want to do with them?" "Send them to Deacon." "Tessa." "Not as blackmail. As a mirror. I want him to see what he really is." That afternoon, a package arrived at Deacon's apartment. Inside was a flash drive and a note. "This is who you were. This is what you did. This is why you'll never do it again," he called an hour later. "You can't use those videos. They were recorded without consent. I'm not using them for anything. I'm giving them to you." "Why?" "Because I want you to watch them. I want you to see yourself through my eyes. Tessa, I want you to understand that every woman who ever loved you deserved better. Sarah deserved better. I deserved better. I know I made mistakes. You didn't make mistakes, Deacon. You made choices. Every single day, you chose to hurt people who trusted you. I'm sorry. I know you are, but sorry doesn't undo the damage. What do you want from me? I want you to get help. Real help. Therapy. Anger management. Whatever it takes. And if I don't? Then the next woman you hurt won't be as forgiving as I am." I hung up and never spoke to him again. 3 months after construction began, Real opened its doors. The house that had once echoed with my screams now hummed with the voices of women rebuilding their lives. Sarah managed the day-to-day operations. Sophia handled the legal advocacy. Phoebe ran the financial literacy workshops. I kept my regular job and visited every evening, helping with dinner, listening to stories, offering advice when asked. "How did you know you were ready to leave?" asked Maya, a 24-year-old who'd arrived the week before with 2 black eyes and a 3-year-old daughter. "I didn't know I was ready," I said. "I just knew I couldn't stay." "What if I'm not strong enough?" "You're here. That's already stronger than you think you are." My parents came to the open house. My mother cried when she saw what I'd built. My father stood quietly in the corner, watching women who reminded him of his daughter at 18. "I'm proud of you," he said as they were leaving. "I know." "Can you forgive me?" "I'm working on it." "That's enough for now." "It has to be." A reporter from the local paper wanted to write a story about Real. I agreed but kept my name out of it. The article ran with the headline, "Local Safe House Offers New Beginnings," and featured photos of the renovated rooms, interviews with residents, and quotes from Sarah about the importance of community support. The article went viral. Donations poured in. Other women reached out, wanting to start similar programs in their cities. But the moment I'll remember most happened on a quiet Tuesday evening. I was in the kitchen, the same kitchen where Deacon had hurt me, making dinner with 3 of the residents. We were laughing about something silly, the radio was playing, and for a moment I forgot about the past entirely. Then Maya's daughter ran in from the living room, tugging on my shirt. "Miss Tessa, can you help me with my puzzle?" I knelt down to her level. "Of course, sweetheart." As I helped her fit the pieces together, I realized something had shifted. The house no longer held the weight of my trauma. It held the promise of other women's futures. That night, I sat on the front porch swing I'd installed where my father used to park his car. The street was quiet, the house behind me full of women who were learning, like I had, that survival was just the beginning. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw the article, started therapy. Thank you. I deleted the message without responding and looked up at the stars. This home once knew silence, now it echoes with truth.